I still remember the first time I ever saw him. He was 4 years old, hiding behind his mother's legs, peeking at me with those curious eyes mixed with fear. 2 years later, he called me Dad for the very first time, and my heart melted completely. I spent 14 years trying to be the best father I could possibly be for that little boy. I coached his teams, saved for his future, and loved him like my own blood. But one sentence on graduation night changed everything. Before I tell you what happened, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If you have not already, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Stick around to see what happened when my stepson learned the true cost of his words. My name is Gary, and I met Linda at a parent volunteer event at Jefferson Elementary School. I was 28 years old back then, working as a mechanical engineer at a manufacturing plant about 30 minutes outside of Columbus, Ohio. Every Saturday morning, I volunteered to teach basketball to kids at the local community center. It was something I loved, doing a way to give back and stay connected to the sport that shaped my childhood. Linda walked in one Saturday with her son Brandon. She was looking for activities to keep him busy, something to help him burn off energy and maybe make some friends. Brandon was 4 years old, small for his age, with messy brown hair and big blue eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. He did not say a word to me that first day. He just watched from behind his mother, clutching her hand like his life depended on it. I learned later that Brandon's father, a man named Derek, had walked out on them when Brandon was only 2. Derek had been having an affair with a coworker, and when she got a job offer in California, he packed his bags and never looked back. No goodbye to his son, no child support payments, no birthday cards or phone calls. He simply vanished as if Brandon had never existed. Linda and I started talking after the basketball sessions. She was warm, funny, and incredibly strong. Raising a child alone, while working full-time as a nurse, was no small feat, but she never complained. We exchanged numbers, then started meeting for coffee. Those coffee dates turned into dinners, and dinners turned into something deeper. I did not rush things. I knew that getting involved with a single mother meant I was not just dating her. I was potentially becoming a part of her son's life. That responsibility weighed on me, but it also excited me. I had always wanted to be a father, and even though Brandon was not my biological child, I felt a connection to him from the very beginning. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. During that time, I made sure to build a relationship with Brandon separately from my relationship with Linda. I took him to baseball games. I helped him with his homework. I sat on the floor of his bedroom and played with toy trucks for hours. Slowly, he started to open up. The shy little boy who hid behind his mother began to laugh around me, to seek me out when he wanted to play, to fall asleep on my shoulder during movie nights. The day he called me Dad for the first time, I was not expecting it. We were at the park, and he had scraped his knee going down the slide. I picked him up, brushed off the dirt, and put a bandage on the cut. He looked up at me with tears still in his eyes and said, "Thanks, Dad." Just like that. No fanfare, no big moment. Just a 6-year-old boy who had decided in his own heart that I was his father. I married Linda 3 months later. On our wedding day, I made a promise not just to her but to Brandon. I told him I would always be there for him no matter what. I meant every word. The years that followed were the happiest of my life. I threw myself into fatherhood with everything I had. When Brandon was 7, he caught a bad case of the flu that turned into pneumonia. I stayed up for 3 nights straight, monitoring his fever, giving him medicine, holding him when he cried. Linda and I took turns, but I refused to leave his side for more than an hour at a time. When we finally had to rush him to the emergency room at 2 in the morning, I carried him in my arms and did not let go until the doctors made me. I taught him how to ride a bike the summer he turned 8. We spent an entire afternoon in the driveway, me running behind him with my hand on the back of the seat, him wobbling and laughing and occasionally crashing into the bushes. When he finally got the hang of it and rode all the way down the street without falling, he turned around and pumped his fist in the air. That image is burned into my memory forever. When Brandon joined the middle school basketball team, I volunteered to be the assistant coach. For 4 years, I spent my evenings and weekends at practices and games. I learned the names of every kid on the team, their strengths and weaknesses, their favorite plays. I pushed Brandon hard because I knew he had talent, but I also made sure he knew I was proud of him regardless of how he performed on the court. I worked overtime, nearly every month. The extra money went straight into a savings account I had opened for Brandon's college fund. Linda did not know how much I was putting away. I wanted it to be a surprise, something we could present to him when the time came. I calculated that if I kept it up, we would have enough to cover 4 years at a good state university with money left over. There were sacrifices along the way. When I was 35, my company offered me a promotion that would have meant a significant raise. The catch was that it required relocating to Texas. I turned it down without a second thought. Brandon was in high school by then, thriving in his classes, happy with his friends, doing well on the basketball team. I could not uproot him just for my career. The hardest sacrifice came when Brandon was 16. I had been restoring a 1969 Mustang in the garage for years. It was my dream car, the one I had fantasized about owning since I was a teenager. I was about halfway done with the restoration when I realized that the money I was spending on parts could be going toward Brandon's future instead. I sold the Mustang to a collector and put every penny into the college fund. It hurt, but it was the right thing to do. By the time Brandon was a senior in high school, I had saved nearly $80,000 for his education. I had also officially adopted him when he was 10 years old. Derek had signed away his parental rights without hesitation, probably relieved to be free of any legal obligations. Brandon took my last name, and I thought that chapter of our lives was closed forever. I was wrong. The trouble started when Brandon was 16. I came home from work one evening to find him sitting at the kitchen table, staring at his phone with an expression I had never seen before. It was a mixture of curiosity and something else. Longing, maybe, or fascination. When I asked him what he was looking at, he hesitated before showing me the screen. It was a Facebook profile belonging to Derek, the man who had abandoned him 14 years earlier, the man who had never sent a single birthday card or made a single phone call. Derek had done well for himself, apparently. His profile showed photos of a large house in Los Angeles with a swimming pool in the backyard. There were pictures of expensive cars, vacations to tropical destinations, and a young blonde woman who was clearly his girlfriend. He owned a real estate development company that, according to the website Brandon had found, was worth several $1,000,000. I tried to stay calm. I told Brandon that Derek had made his choices a long time ago, and that those choices said everything about who he was as a person. I reminded him that being successful in business did not make someone a good father or a good man. Brandon nodded and put his phone away, but I could see that something had shifted behind his eyes. Linda noticed the change, too. Brandon started asking questions about Derek. What was he like when they were married? Why did he leave? Did he ever try to contact them? Linda answered honestly, even when the truth was painful. She told Brandon that Derek had been charming but selfish, that he had always put his own needs first, that leaving had been easy for him because he had never really bonded with his son. I hoped the curiosity would fade, but it only grew stronger. Brandon started comparing our lives to Derek's. He pointed out that our house was small compared to the mansion in Los Angeles. He complained that our cars were old and boring. He made comments about how his friends' families took expensive vacations while we went camping in state parks. I tried not to take it personally. Teenagers say hurtful things sometimes. They push boundaries and test limits. I told myself it was just a phase, that Brandon would grow out of it and realize that material possessions did not define a family. Then Derek reached out. It happened a few weeks after Brandon turned 17. He received a direct message on Instagram from an account he did not recognize. The profile picture was Derek older now, but still with the same confident smile. The message was simple. He said he had been thinking about Brandon, that he regretted losing touch, that he wanted to reconnect if Brandon was open to it. Brandon showed me the message that night. I could see the hope in his eyes, the desperate need to believe that his biological father actually cared about him. I wanted to tell him to block the account and move on. I wanted to protect him from the inevitable disappointment. But I also knew that trying to control his relationship with Derek would only push him away from me. So I said nothing. I told Brandon it was his decision to make, and that Linda and I would support whatever he chose. He chose to respond. Over the next few months, Derek sent gifts, an Apple Watch for no particular occasion, the latest iPhone to replace Brandon's perfectly functional older model. Designer clothes that cost more than my entire wardrobe. Each package that arrived felt like a small invasion, a reminder that Derek was trying to buy what I had spent years earning through patience and presence. The worst part was watching Brandon's reaction. He was thrilled by every gift, posting pictures on social media and bragging to his friends about his rich father in California. He stopped calling me Dad as often. Sometimes he would just say, "Gary," or nothing at all. When Derek invited Brandon to spend spring break in Los Angeles, I knew I could not say no without looking like the villain. Linda was hesitant, but Brandon begged and pleaded until she relented. I drove him to the airport myself, hugged him goodbye, and told him to have fun. He barely looked at me before walking through the security checkpoint. The week he was gone was the longest of my life. I checked my phone constantly, hoping for a text or a call. I got a few brief messages. Pictures of the pool, the beach, a fancy restaurant. In every photo, Brandon was smiling wider than I had seen in months. When he came back, the boy I picked up from the airport was not the same one I had dropped off. He talked non-stop about Derek's house, Derek's cars, Derek's boat, Derek's girlfriend, who was only 10 years older than Brandon himself. Everything in our home suddenly seemed inadequate. The food was boring. The neighborhood was lame. Even the way I dressed was apparently embarrassing. The final straw came when Brandon referred to me as my mom's husband while talking to one of his friends on the phone. Not his dad. Not even his stepdad. Just the man his mother happened to marry. I was standing in the hallway close enough to hear every word. He did not know I was there, or maybe he did not care. The tension continued to build through Brandon's senior year. Every conversation felt like walking through a minefield. He wanted things I could not afford, experiences I could not provide, a lifestyle that existed only in the curated photos Derek posted online. In March, Brandon demanded that I buy him a car. Not just any car. He wanted something nice, something that would impress his friends, something comparable to what Derek had promised to get him. When I explained that buying a brand new sports car was not in our budget, he accused me of being cheap. He said Derek would buy him whatever he wanted without hesitation. I kept my composure, but inside I was breaking. I had worked overtime for years, sacrificed my own dreams, put every extra dollar toward giving this boy a future.